The CIA once spent around $20 million trying to turn a cat into a listening device. In a controlled lab, under surgical lighting, the animal lies completely still. Not just doctors, engineers stand around the table, discussing signal range and how to hide a transmitter inside a living body. By the end of the procedure, the cat is carrying a working surveillance system. A microphone is embedded deep enough to pick up nearby voices, while a transmitter is hidden where no one would ever think to look. From the outside, it's just a stray. The target is a park bench where two Soviet officials meet regularly. They talk openly, assuming distance keeps them safe. A handler releases the cat onto the sidewalk. It pauses for a moment, distracted by the noise of the street, then starts moving toward the bench. Everything depends on those next few seconds. The cat steps off the curb and is hit by a taxi before it reaches the target. Years of work and millions of dollars end in a way no one planned for. The project never recovers. But the idea of using animals doesn't stop there. In another operation, agents carried something designed to be ignored: a dead rat. The body was modified to hold a small container inside, film, instructions, sensitive material that couldn't be handed over directly. To make sure nothing disturbed it, the rat was treated with chemicals and strong spices. It was left in plain sight near a wall or along a path. People walked past without getting close. Later, another agent would pass by, briefly slow down, and pick it up without drawing attention. No exchange, no contact. Just a transfer hidden inside something most people avoid. And then there were pigeons. A bird lifts off from a rooftop with a miniature camera attached to its body. As it flies, the device captures images automatically, mapping streets and buildings from above. From the ground, nothing looks unusual. It's just another pigeon crossing the sky. The CIA didn't just experiment with devices. At one point, they started treating living animals as mobile surveillance platforms. And every time they tried, they were relying on something they couldn't fully control. In the 1970s, the CIA tried to build a spy that looked like an insect. Not a camera hidden in something, an actual flying machine designed to pass as part of the environment. In a lab, resting on a technician's hand, it looks fragile. A thin body, transparent wings, barely visible details. It weighs about a gram. Up close, you start noticing what makes it unnatural. Inside, there's no battery. A miniature gas-powered mechanism drives the wings, forcing them to vibrate fast enough to lift it into the air. For its time, it was an engineering breakthrough. The goal was simple: send it through an open window. Let it get close enough to pick up a conversation. Leave without being noticed. Inside the lab, it worked. It could take off, hover for a moment, and respond to control. Everything looked precise, controlled, predictable. Then they tested it outside. The moment it left the controlled environment, the problem became obvious. The device was too light. Air movement that humans wouldn't even notice was enough to push it off course. It didn't take much: a slight breeze, a shift in temperature, even the movement of air near a building. The flight path broke instantly. There was no way to stabilize it in real conditions. A machine designed to imitate a living insect failed because it couldn't survive the same environment. And still, they kept pushing the idea further, not just into the air, but underwater. In another facility, a different kind of experiment was moving through a tank, a robotic fish. From a distance, it looked natural. Slow movement, subtle turns, controlled motion through the water. Inside, it was built to operate in places humans couldn't reach unnoticed. Harbors, restricted zones, areas near military vessels. The goal wasn't just movement, it was access to environments where even a trained diver would immediately stand out. Some versions were designed to collect samples. Others were part of research into how something artificial could move through water without being detected. But just like the insect, the real world wasn't predictable. Water currents, pressure, movement, things that couldn't be perfectly simulated in a tank. The CIA wasn't just building surveillance tools anymore. They were trying to create machines that could exist inside real environments without being recognized as machines. And every time they tried, they ran into the same problem. Reality doesn't behave like a laboratory. Some CIA tools didn't try to look hidden. They tried to look so ordinary that no one would ever question them. On a table sits a worn silver coin. Nothing about it stands out, until someone takes a thin needle and presses it into a tiny hole near the edge. The coin separates with a quiet click. Inside, there's no metal core, just a narrow space, barely large enough to hold a strip of microfilm. To anyone else, it's loose change, but in the right hands, it carries names, locations, and instructions that were never meant to be written down anywhere else. The coin closes again. Dropped into circulation, it disappears into the noise of everyday life. It can move through dozens of hands without anyone realizing what they're holding. But sometimes, hiding something wasn't enough. Sometimes, the goal was to make sure no one would even go near it. On the side of a road, near a wall, there's something most people avoid without thinking. It looks like dog waste, the shape, the texture. Even the placement feels real. No one stops, no one checks. Why would they? Inside, there's a concealed device, a transmitter built to stay in place and operate over time, passing signals from a location no one wants to get close to. It doesn't need to be hidden. It relies on instinct, and instinct does the rest. Then there were objects designed to cross a different boundary. Something small, personal, a lipstick case rests on a desk. Plain, metallic, forgettable. It could belong to anyone. Twisted open. And instead of color, there's a firing mechanism, a single round, close range. A weapon that exists inside something meant to be carried without attention. Some versions became known as the kiss of death, small enough to disappear, simple enough to use once. After that, it's just an empty shell. These weren't just tools. They were objects built to exist in the open without triggering any suspicion. Things you see every day, things your brain filters out automatically. And that's exactly what made them effective. Not every operation relied on technology. Some were built around something far less predictable, what people already believed. In the Philippines, CIA-backed forces were dealing with insurgents hiding in remote villages and dense jungle. The terrain made direct confrontation unreliable, so they looked for something else, not weapons, leverage. They studied local beliefs, not as stories, but as something people acted on. One of them stood out, the aswang, a creature from local folklore, said to move at night and feed on blood. It wasn't questioned, it was accepted. That made it useful. One night, a patrol captures a suspected insurgent. He isn't interrogated, he's used. 2 precise punctures are made in his neck, placed to resemble bite marks. The body is hung upside down, left long enough for gravity to do the rest. By morning, it's placed where it will be found. The discovery doesn't stay local, it spreads. A body, drained, marked, no witnesses, no explanation, nothing that connects it to a military unit. It doesn't read as an operation. It fits into something older, something people already understand. Fear doesn't need to be explained. It moves on its own. Patrol routes change, positions are abandoned, movement slows down after dark, no orders are given, no warnings issued. The reaction builds without coordination, because no one wants to find out if the story is real. They didn't need to prove anything. They only needed to create a situation where belief would do the rest. And after that, the jungle didn't go silent by accident. During the Cold War, hiding something wasn't always about making it invisible. Sometimes it was about making people see exactly what they expected, and nothing more. In Moscow, a car moves slowly through traffic. Inside, a CIA officer sits in the back seat. He knows he's being followed. A KGB surveillance team stays close behind, watching every move. At a turn, the car slows down. For a brief moment, the rear door opens, and the officer rolls out onto the street, disappearing behind a parked vehicle. At the exact same moment, something else takes his place. A lifelike dummy inflates in the seat. From the outside, nothing changes. The figure is still there. Same position, same silhouette. The car continues moving. The surveillance team follows. They don't question it. Why would they? The target never left, but he's already gone, and they're chasing something that isn't real. In another operation, the secret wasn't hidden in an object. It was hidden in something almost invisible. A printed page, a normal document filled with text. Somewhere in the corner, there's a tiny dot, easy to miss. It looks like a printing defect. Dust, ink, nothing important. Under magnification, it becomes something else. A full page of information, reduced to the size of a pinhead. Names, reports, entire documents, all compressed into something no one would ever examine closely. It travels across borders, inside newspapers, inside letters, passed through checkpoints without a second look, because no one searches for information inside a single dot. And then there were agents who carried equipment in plain sight, on their own bodies. A woman walks through a checkpoint. Nothing about her seems unusual. She moves carefully, but not nervously. Under her clothing, her body shape is slightly different. Not enough to draw suspicion. She appears pregnant. But there is no child. Inside the artificial form, a concealed radio system. Powerful enough to transmit signals, small enough to move unnoticed. Guards let her pass, no inspection, no delay. Because no one wants to question what they think they understand. The CIA didn't just hide objects, they learned how to hide in perception itself. And once they understood that, they didn't need perfect concealment. They only needed people to see what they expected to see. By the late 1950s, some ideas had outgrown cities, people, and battlefields. They were aimed at something much bigger: the sky. In 1958, a classified project proposed something that sounds impossible even today: a nuclear explosion. On the moon. Not for science, not for research, for visibility. The idea was simple: launch a nuclear device to the lunar surface and detonate it at a point where the flash would be visible from Earth. A bright, unmistakable signal in the night sky, something millions of people could see at the same time, no explanation needed, no translation required. Just a message. We can reach anywhere, even here. Calculations were made. Launch paths, impact timing, visibility angles. The only reason it didn't happen was the risk. Not political, not ethical, practical. If the mission failed, the device could fall back to Earth or drift out of control. Even for the Cold War, that was too unpredictable. But the scale of these ideas didn't stop there. In another proposal, the target wasn't territory, it was belief itself. The concept was later described as the voice of God. The plan focused on using technology to project sound across large distances, into places where people would never expect it, religious regions, isolated populations. The idea was to create a voice that couldn't be traced, a voice that seemed to come from nowhere, or everywhere at once. If it worked, it wouldn't sound like a broadcast. It would sound like revelation, A command, something people wouldn't question, something they would follow. No troops, no weapons. Just influence at a scale no operation had ever reached before. These plans were never executed, but they were developed, calculated, discussed seriously. The same way someone once approved putting a transmitter inside a cat, or building machines that tried to imitate life, or hiding secrets in things people refused to touch. None of it was random, it followed a pattern. Push the idea further, make it stranger, make it work. And if it sounds impossible, test it anyway. Because during the Cold War, the line between strategy and absurdity was never clearly defined.